In the heart of the Worcestershire countryside is a collection of villages known as the Lenches. Lench is an ancient word for ridge or terrace of earth. There are 5 Lench villages: Church Lench, Atch Lench, Ob Lench, Sheriff's Lench and Rous Lench, where we are now. We have come to Rous Lench to look at the village and find out what it was like living here years ago. Houses and cottages surround the green. The village hall stands by the green. There is a schoolhouse which is now a private dwelling. The school was built in 1864 and closed in 1958. An old well stands nearby. The village green has a fine assortment of trees planted over the years. There are some larger houses too. This is the rectory. The largest house in the village is Rous Lench Court, standing in 55 acres of gardens. And it has many historical connections. It's said that William Shakespeare stayed here, as his son-in-law, Dr. Hall, lived at Rous Lench Court and knew the Rous family, so it's quite possible. And Stratford-on-Avon is only 16 miles away. It's also said that Oliver Cromwell stayed here on the night before the Battle of Worcester in 1651. Rous Lench had strong parliamentarian connections during the Civil War. St. Peter's Church in Rous Lench is part Norman, built where a Saxon church used to stand. The south doorway is a fine example of Norman work. Above is a carved effigy. Two village residents, Anne Pierce and Anne Wild, let us inside. There's a lot to look after. The church contains some windows of the 13th and 14th century.
And at one time they wanted to move the screen, of course. In memory of Tom Byrne. It was his father, Tom Byrne's father. Yes. Who lived, of course, up at the court. And then when he died, Tom took over. But I expect you know the story of how when Tom was only 21, they gave him a Rolls Royce, and apparently he had all the best vegetables and the best fruit as soon as it started. He always had it, and the girls couldn't have it. There are quite a number now, which have been done by hand, obviously, have been done by Tom Byrne's sister, Mrs. Billa Kernock. That one, of course, is the one from St. Peter's Keys, because it is St. Peter's Church. And this one is in memory of her husband, Ron Kernock, who was one of the big farmers, really, in the district. Yes. Yes, I must have to I'm missing something. Come on. I didn't know how to stop her, that was my problem.
This is Dr. William Kyle Westwood Chaffee, who had a great influence on the village of Rous Lench. Dr. Chaffee was responsible, more than any other, for the shaping and preservation of the village. He became Lord of the Manor of Rous Lench in 1876, taking over Rous Lench Court, and became rector in 1881. As a landlord and squire, he was well liked by the farmers and villagers. This picture of him was taken in 1904 when Dr. Chaffee was 63. Many years earlier, he set out to improve the village and the life of its people. Dr. Chaffee was determined to help the people of Rous Lench. He found some cottages which had fallen down, and he set about rebuilding them, and then keep them in excellent repair. He was horrified to see the state of some cottages, but Dr. Chaffee was determined to make things right. He then turned to the village church of St. Peter's and set to work rebuilding where necessary. And it was in very poor state. The old wooden pews were so cramped that kneeling was almost impossible. The belfry was unsafe, bats flitted about, and mouldering damp and decay were everywhere. So Dr. Chaffee set to work, removed the pews and replaced them with chairs and benches. He then rebuilt the chancel arch and other walls which were tottering. This is how the church looked after Dr. Chaffee's renovation work. The pews have gone, with chairs and benches in their place. The chancel arch has been rebuilt and the north wall restored. Quite a transformation, I think you'll agree. This picture was taken in 1894 and had the Christmas decorations. on view. Dr. Chaffee took a great interest in the well-being of the villagers of Rous Lench. As a way of bringing everyone together, he presented plays and concerts in the village hall. He often arranged the music, song and dance himself. In 1883, Dr. Chaffee began a series of stage shows in Chaffcote. He presented Gilbert and Sullivan's Cox and Box with very youthful actors, being only 14, 13 and 8.5 years old. The Evesham Journal wrote, "A brilliant example of what may be done by patient, intelligent training, even with unpromising materials, is afforded by the entertainment given under the auspices of the Reverend Chaffee." Then came Mr. Bumble's Courtship, taken almost word for word from Charles Dickens. Mr. Bumble was a little boy of 14.5, Mrs. Corney, his sister, 8.5, and the pauper was a little girl of 12.5. Dr. Chaffee especially encouraged the children of the village to take part in the shared enjoyment of acting and singing in front of the villagers, and they loved it. Large audiences filled the village hall. It was fun and games all the way. In 1890, it was Babes in the Wood pantomime, and the Evesham Journal said, "The Reverend W.K. Chaffee evidently possesses more common sense and enterprise than the average country parson, and in his laudable effort to impart fresh life and interest to the monotonous round of rustic existence, he has boldly introduced theatrical performances." But then something happened. The magic lantern had arrived. On January the 8th, 1891, Mr. Martin Smith gave a magic lantern show in the village hall. The local paper said the wintry weather, which had shut up the roads, making it all the more acceptable. Then, after very many stage shows, the Reverend Chaffee ended his run of success with Beauty and the Beast. After the show, he said, "Since this last show, we have been static rather than dynamic. Adolescence and marriage are devastating forces." Although the shows had finished, Dr. Chaffee had achieved his aim of bringing all the villagers together. He, more than any other, had helped to make Rous Lench a village with pride and confidence. Well done, sir. Dr. Chaffee built an attractive post box by the village green, and it's a constant reminder of a great man. Rous Lench still has a post office and hopes to keep it as a centre of village life. The post office is run by Mrs. Rosetta Cotterill, affectionately known as Muff. She's been in charge since 1959. Her grandfather worked at Rous Lench Court, and her father lost his life fighting for Britain in the Great War. She has many old photographs of Rous Lench. This is Rous Lench Village Green.
Yes, I don't know when. Before the U Arch was built, you see, so
yes.
Goodness knows.
Now, what year would that be approximately? Have you any idea?
Oh, in the 1980s, wasn't it?
I see.
Got to be, hadn't it?
Yes, quite, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, being Dr. Chaffee's time, but I mean...
Yes,
yes,
yeah. It's a wonderful photograph.
There's no date on it, you see, is there?
No, no.
But you can see the White House farm there, and on the left, look, it's the old...
Yes.
Miss Taylor and Mrs. Hemming lived...
Where Major and Mrs. Baker lived.
And he asked me the other night if I'd got the photograph with that on, before they knocked it down. I said, yes, I have somewhere.
That's a gorgeous, that's a gorgeous photograph.
Yes, yeah. And their hand on the chafe cuts.
Yes,
it's still there,
that's right, yes, on the shield.
Yeah.
Very unusual crest, that, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. We used to call it the bloody hand, but still.
Did they?
Yeah. But that was only built in 1864, was it all?
Yes, I think something like
Same
that.
as this, I think.
Yeah.
So, I mean, why the hand was on there, I can't remember.
No. That's super. One Muff. That top one there, that's the green with Oakville on it, isn't it?
Yes.
That's Oakville on the top.
Yes, that's right, yes.
Well, that's different today because you couldn't see that view today.
No, you wouldn't be able to take it now, would you?
No,
quite like that.
with all the trees.
No, you wouldn't.
That's an enormous tree just to the right of the house, isn't it?
Yes, is it down?
Enormous. I must be, mustn't it?
I don't think it's there now.
I don't think it's there now.
Isn't it awful?
Yeah. It looks quite bare there, doesn't it, the whole scene?
Yeah. Oh, of course, there is a photograph in there when they planted the oak in
good point.
Yes, when they planted the oak.
Yeah. And very unusual eaves, haven't they, on the...
Oh, dear me. I don't think it's in this red one, I don't think. I don't know. I'm not methodical. As they said, if I'd have put all of the court in one and all, and all of the village, because that's a different one of the village, but it's only got the...
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Before?
Now then.
With all that funny stuff I said, surely.
This is an interesting photograph. It shows the motor bus.
Yes.
Now, what year would that be?
I can't remember when the tree came down.
20s? 1920s?
I suppose so, yes. I expect it would be, wouldn't it?
And this used to be a regular bus service, presumably, around all the villages.
Yes. I can't remember who it was now. We used to have different ones.
And that house on the right is Oakville, is it?
Pardon?
That's Oakville on the right, is it?
Yes. Oh, yes. Of course it is.
Yeah. But very few trees.
Yeah.
Very few trees.
Very few there.
Two residents of Rous Lench, Pearl and Dennis Hemming, have lived in the village for 60 years. They remember how village life used to be.
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I think.
And was there much industry in the village? Did people live here and work here
There was
as
just
well?
the blacksmiths when we were here. Okay. But before that there'd been an estate carpenter and a joiner up the road and bricklayers and everything.
Lot of work for them to do.
Yeah. all maintenance was better.
Yeah. At the court, I
Yeah,
suppose.
yeah. And very natural village.
And they have a lot of gardeners there as well.
Yeah, there was quite a few. I forget to say many it was.
I heard it was about 6, is that right?
Yeah, I think it was more than that.
Was it?
I think so, yeah.
Cut all the yew hedges.
Yeah.
Any of your relatives work there?
Yeah, my granddad was a gardener, and his dad was there before that. And there was 1 or 2 more besides my uncle were.
Yeah.
Granny Emmy was cook, wasn't she?
For a little boy, yeah.
Yeah, up there at the court as well.
I hear there was a pageant there one year. Didn't they act out a...
That was when your
That was
mum
probably Chief Cook, wasn't it?
It was done on the...
Oh, yeah,
on the
yeah.
lawn. Yeah,
Yeah.
One of the fights, yeah.
You didn't act in that?
No.
I thought it was the whole village that was involved with that.
No, I don't know who actually done it now. Yeah. So they had plays in the village hall.
Yes.
But that was before my time.
Mm.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the old people almost spoke a different language to what we do today.
Really?
Yeah. It was a job to understand.
Can you speak any of that? Can you make it
Well, I very often do by mistake.
Go on, say something to us in that.
Well,
If you said you were going somewhere, they'd say, leave us and go in their best.
and you're going to Worcester,
It's always Worcester, yeah.
Worcester.
Asum
Asum.
Feversham.
Asum.
Asum,
Asum,
sorry,
Yeah.
called.
and like you said, Oblench for, well it's
Yeah.
Oblench, they all said Oblench round
The old
here.
people always said Oblench.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah,
And they call it Persia, don't they? Persia?
Persia, yeah.
yeah,
Persia.
yeah, yeah.
Ulster.
Yes.
With some of the sort of
Birmingham.
yeah.
So the blacksmith here, was he a farrier as well? He did the...
Yeah, he's
Horses.
in the Austrian as well, yeah.
That was Vicarage, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's a big bridge, yeah.
And who was it up at Dan Pierce's, the beach chase? Because that was the blacksmith as well, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
but that was going back, there was 1 or 2 up there, I think.
Yeah.
That was back in them days in 1818.
So what changes have you noticed during your time here?
Well, I think life got slower then. It was slower then in them days, what it is today. And people had more time to talk, I think. Sit and talk and know one another.
People walked about the village more, do you think, and talked to each other?
Oh, probably, yeah. I think everybody knew one another more like in them days.
60, there was more of the old village people here then, you know, like there was Bunt and Mrs. Jennings and Hattie and Sissy, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Bessie Smith's still here now, but they were the old village people and they had more time. You know, they, like Bunt would come down the path, if you were in the garden, say, oh, kettle's on, and you go and have a cup of tea and a natter in the garden, you know. And like when Mrs. Longman lived at Chavecote and the children were small, we used to go and take them for a walk out of the village in the morning and bring them back, you know. Well, people don't do that anymore, do they?
No.
Not really. And then as the people died off or they moved out, then the outside people, as we call them, moved in and the village changed. It isn't a village community as it was.
Was there a shop there then? Did you...
Yeah, there was Mrs. Crump was here then, when I first came here. And we had the co-op van bring the grocery round twice a week. And we had the fishman from Abbots Morton. And then there was Wards who brought the oil, wasn't there?
Yeah.
And then Crow from Studley, he brought oil and you could buy tin stuff off him and your polish and all that sort of thing. Well, all that's gone. You've got
So you could stay in the village
you could
and
stay
not
in the
have
village
to go
but
out.
not go out if you wanted to. Oh, we had a butcher come from Ashford Bank, didn't we?
Yeah.
He
There
used
was
to
a butcher
come.
before that, was
Yeah, but there was a butcher that came round, wasn't there, that
Yeah.
brought the meat round, and you ordered on a Tuesday for your Friday meat and Friday for the following Tuesday,
Ah,
you
yeah.
know, and he brought whatever you wanted. So really, you could stay in the village and not go out to the village to do your shopping, which was all right, really. You know.
Do you think the church was well attended in those days?
It was in my young day.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not so much when
Most people went, I think.
With his horse, was he, or was that, did he use that round Kidderminster?
He didn't bring it around here, not
He
the
didn't
milk.
bring it
No.
down.
No, I think he just bought it because he just wanted a horse originally. I think that's all, you know, and then he brought it and stabled it here.
We fetched the milk from the farm using them days. Just
Oh, did you?
Took a can down to Curnups and fetched the milk.
Didn't have to go through all the
No.
checking to see if it was pure and you go, that's interesting.
I think there have been 4 shops here in my time, like. And the butcher shop as well.
Yes, because Mr. Twist had something to do with the butcher shop, didn't he? Wasn't there a slaughterhouse behind?
Oh yeah, there's a butcher shop here, yeah. The Crump, that one.
Yeah, oh, was it?
Crump was a butcher, yeah. You killed the pigs out just over the gate by the side of the road. Like.
Oh, and then sold them in the shop.
Well, he killed them for different people about the village.
Oh.
If you got one, like, he took it down there to kill it. Like.
Because you used to go round with him as a lad, didn't you? Delivering
A
the
bit,
meat.
yeah, taking meat, right?
Completely different life, isn't it?
Yeah. And because Vicarage had a penny farthing, which they tried to ride, didn't they?
Really?
Yeah.
When we was little, there was a deep snow once, and it snowed up Crump's Drive, like. And he asked us if we'd shovel the snow away, so he could get the van out at night. And he said, I'll give you a shilling each if you do. So he come out and had a look when we finished, and he said, oh, he's made a good job of that. He said, I'm going to rise your wages from a shilling, he said, to 9 pence. He gave us 6 pence. An apple.
So next time he asks, you were very wise.
Pearl and Dennis Hemming recently discovered an old album of photographs of Rous Lench. Let's take a look.
Rous Lench Court. Who was living there when you first came, Dennis?
Tom Burns. They just had it all redone up inside from where they partly knocked it down.
And there was a story about how he came to live there. Did he inherit it, or did he buy it, or what?
Oh, that was his son. Yeah, this was his father like, that had it there.
Oh, his father. And then he left it to Tom Byrne,
Yeah,
his son.
he died when the war was on, his father.
This shows the inside of the court, the entrance hall. He had a wonderful collection of furniture, didn't he, and china.
Oh yeah, but this would have been in Chafee's day when this was.
Oh, of
This was
course,
done, like,
these
yeah.
are before Tom Byrne's time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Beautiful staircase. And this picture's the garden entrance.
Yeah.
Of course, Chafee was the vicar as well, wasn't he? As well as owning the
Oh yeah, it was Dr. Chafee.
Dr. Chafee.
He was Doctor of Divinity or something.
I think that's a picture of Dr. Chafee in his sitting room.
Yeah, I think it is him, yeah. But I never actually saw him myself, like, but I think it was Dr. Chafee.
I remember seeing this bedroom where Tom Byrne used to sleep in that 4-post bed, and he had a Dimplex radiator beside it to keep him warm,
Yeah.
and a rack at the bottom, a wire rack where he used to hang his suits. And I think it was that bedroom where there was a Grinling Gibbons carving on the wall. Absolutely beautiful. That house is where Mr. and Mrs. Twist used to live, or Mrs. Twist still lives.
Yeah.
But it has a thatched roof there, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Beautiful Victorian chimneys.
I think one of the estate carpenters lived there years ago as well.
Oh. And this is Beach House, where Anne Pierce and her daughter live.
Yeah, that was the original blacksmith.
So the forge was on the right there, was it?
I think the forge is in the buildings on the right hand side, yeah.
Yes. And here's the village school. You went to school there? Yes?
I went there till I was 11, yeah. And then to Evesham.
And did the schoolmistress live in the house?
She lived on the house on the one side, yeah, with her sister.
What do you remember about your school days there?
Well,
Was it strict, or did you...
well, it was a bit, yeah, yeah. You didn't have to play about like they would do today, like.
And you played on the village green?
Yeah,
And that's the well to the left, isn't it?
yeah.
Village well.
Yeah, someone fell down that once. one of the school kids. But that was before I can remember, right? But somebody was going by just at the time and they got the bucket there and got him out.
Oh,
I think it's about 75 foot, something like that deep.
is it?
Yeah.
And this village, this house is known as Chafecot, isn't it?
Yeah,
There's the village hall on the right-hand side.
yeah. And I think the other part had been the old Bell Inn originally.
And there is now a large yew hedge connecting our house with Chafecot there,
Yeah, yeah.
which is not there at all at the moment, isn't it? It's
On the one side of the village hall used to be the old malt house.
where Neville Baker lives now.
Yeah,
And that tree is no longer there, is it?
that was cut down in the wartime there. And all side of press and everything was took out then.
And this is inside Chafecot, the village hall.
Yeah, yeah.
They used to put on some good shows there, didn't they?
They did in the early days, I think, yeah. But it was just used for dances and concerts and parties like that. And I was just,
And this is St Peter's Church, Rous Lench. Very different from the way it looks now.
yeah, it's got the old bell tower on still.
What happened to that bell tower?
I think it was unsafe, so they took it down. But the bells are still inside too.
Yes.
I believe there was 3 or something originally, but there's only 2 now.
It's a good healthy choir there for a small village.
Yeah, they had quite a lot in the choir in those days. There was a few when I went small, like most of us at school were in the choir.
Do you think that's Dr. Chafee at the door?
I don't think it is. I think he might be somewhere farther along in the back. But I ain't sure whether he was following along behind or not.
And we have the ladies of the parish, their big hats.
Yeah, that was my uncle, and that one was Miss Stanley. I think she was a school teacher in her early days.
She lived halfway up Court
Up
Hill.
Court Hill, yeah. Well, on the left was you, Stanley. The chap rolling his sleeves up was my granddad, and my uncle was stood up on the right-hand side. And then the carpenter, I think, was Edgar Stanley.
And that's taken in Rous Lench Court grounds.
Yeah. The buttons that was used on the footmen's uniform and on the coachmen and everything. It's a coat of arms for the court.
Showing the peacock. Because they had peacocks up there, didn't they?
Yeah.
Was it given to you, or did you find it?
I had it from my grandmother's years ago, and then it got lost and we dug it up in the garden.
Anne Wilde then asked Anne Pierce how she first came to live in Rous Lench.
Well, we lived in Birmingham, and on the Friday my husband came home and said he had seen a very pretty little village. Would I like to go and see it? So we cruised round and we went up the church and we looked from the gate up there across at the old big house, the court. And as we stood there, I just happened to say, what a lovely, peaceful place. One day I'd love to live here, just like that. And about 3-4 weeks later, he came home and said, you know that little village that you like so much? And I said, yes, because we went round at the weekends and saw a lot of little villages. And he said, well, there's a house for sale, and I just thought we might go and have a look at it. It's practically opposite the church. So we came down on the Saturday, which it was the height of Beasley at the time, and we liked it very much, and I could see that actually what in a way sold it to Roger anyway, was the garden, because he loved out of doors and he'd done a lot of gardening at his time, and well, fruit growing. And so we went back again. We both liked it very much because we felt it had character, the house and the garden. And I never dreamt really that he would say, well, shall we buy it, sort of thing. And on the Monday he phoned up from Birmingham and said, would you like to live down there? And I said, well, yes, fine, because I hated living in Birmingham. I was a country person, and we had been there 9 years, and so on. And so he then phoned back and said, well, he'd got the surveyor to come out on the Tuesday. And it happened to be an appalling day. It was bucketing with rain. And I thought, well, he won't say that's very good, you know, and so on. However, it was a good report. And by the Thursday, Roger had put in his offer. And by the Friday, it was our house. And that was rare, you know, so quick, in under a week, really. Things were a bit quicker, I think, with houses in those days. And so we came down. We actually owned it from that December. And we came down and did all the, a lot of the inside work ourselves, the decorating and so on. We used to come down at weekends. Very cold it was. And we camped in that room with a tea chest for a table, deck chairs and camp beds, you know. And then we moved in the April 58. And have been here ever since.
Lovely. I bet you've seen a few changes since then.
A lot of changes in the village, yes. It seems to be at present a very popular village, doesn't it, really, where people want to come and live. The only thing is that they do also want to change what they come to. At least that's what I've found. Yeah.
Whether you've lived in the village for years or just moved in, you can't fail to be enchanted by the place. It is certainly a gem, and one can understand why people settle here. New residents soon discover the fascination of village life and realise that everyone has a part to play in its upkeep and preservation. As the village children grow up, they learn to follow their parents' example and value a fine quality of life, something to treasure.
But, and then they say, well, you can't stop progress.
There was great progress in farming, however, as new methods were used. The combine harvester appeared on our farmlands. In the early days of farming, much of the work was done by hand, with a scythe and rake. A horse rake pulled the hay into rows. Then men with rakes made it into heaps, ready for carting. Then the cart came, and 3 men working together threw the hay up. It was hard work by hand, like this poor chap muck spreading with a fork. Then a machine that spread manure arrived, and this was the first step to a great harvest. As soon as one harvest was gathered in, the farmer began to plough his land, ready for the next. It was horsepower in the early days. Then came a motorized device with several ploughshares, which speeded up the preparation of the ground. After the land was ploughed, the clods of earth had to be broken up, so a machine called a cultivator was used. When the ground was ready, the seed was sown. This was done in the early days by hand, but much of the seed was wasted. So machinery for sowing the seed was introduced. This was quicker and less wasteful. A field of ripe wheat was ready to be cut. The ripe wheat was at first cut by hand and sickle, but then a machine called a self-binder appeared, which not only cut the wheat, but bound it into sheaves as the machine moved along. The wheat sheaves were then ready for collection. The cut wheat was carted and stacked. After being stacked, the corn was now ready for threshing, and a threshing machine was used, the grain being separated from the chaff and weeds. The grain was then taken to a granary where it was stored and then sold. In the early days of farming, there was a no more delightful scene in the countryside than when the last load of hay was put on the stack. Country roads were very quiet at one time, with just horses and carts. This little girl is raising her hand to let the driver know that she was about to cross the road. Cycling became popular. Then the motor car appeared on our roads, and walkers had to look out. This little boy is stepping into the path of a car without looking. The speeding car became a menace, and more so today. With more traffic on country roads now, concern is felt that speeding cars are a menace, putting people's lives at risk. Country roads were designed really for horses and carts and farm vehicles, but a speeding car today on those twisty lanes can be a menace. So watch your speed. The two-car family is now commonplace. So shopping is done in nearby towns where large supermarkets sell a huge range of goods. Small village shops are disappearing, unable to compete. Rous Lench included.
Next door to the village school was this house, which is now known as Oakville. Prior to 1978, it was a village shop, a general store. Before that it was a butcher's shop. And behind it there was a slaughterhouse where the cattle, sheep and pigs belonging to the villagers were killed. It's the inside of the shop when it was owned and run by Mr. and Mrs. Peter Wilde. This shows Pat Wilde serving at the counter.
And so the last shop in Rous Lench has gone. The cricket club has gone too. But the annual pig roast has survived. The occasional street party may help to keep the community together. Staging a pageant like this one at Rous Lench Court in 1962 would be a way of getting the villagers to work together, taking part as actors, making costumes, or just helping. Rous Lench Court obviously is a problem, but it must be maintained as it is part of English heritage. It is simply a marvellous building, parts of which date back to 1480. The present owner, Mr. Peter White, has to keep everything in good shape, so he's thinking of various ideas to pay for the upkeep of the place. Naturally, many villagers are cautiously watching developments, not wanting anything that will spoil the existing beauty of Rous Lench Court. There is much concern at the suggested plans. Let's hope that a plan agreeable to all will solve the problem. The village church of St. Peter's also must be looked after, and certainly is being lovingly cared for by the people of Rous Lench. An appeal for funds to restore the memorials to the Rous family in the church was set up by Mr. Christopher Milner and his team. There have been Rouses in England since the conquest, from 1392 until 1876, as Lord of the Manor in Rous Lench. The last of the line has since died, and the onus of safeguarding our heritage fell upon the people who live in the parish. After much hard work, the necessary money has been raised, and so these beautiful memorials have been saved. So the church is in good hands. A careful eye must be kept on future development. Too much new building could spoil the existing character of the village. Obviously, some new alterations may occur, but they have to be carefully monitored as nothing must intrude into the natural beauty of the area. This beauty certainly deserves protection and must be preserved so that future generations may share this precious jewel in the English countryside. We must guard our heritage